What's up YouTube, Webberz05 here coming at you today with Q&A number 16. Now before I get into the Q&A guys, I just want to do some quick shout outs to new subscribers. So shout outs to Simone Perrion, this is difficult, Mike Pacifici, sorry if I got that wrong, and Damonkin8. Thank you for subscribing guys, you're the reason my channel is growing stronger. Now, once again, with my Q&A, Darkpetition84 is the only person who's posted me some questions, so thank you very much, my friend. And without further ado, let's get into it. So first off, you have some comments in regards to what I talked about in the last Q&A when you asked me a bit about dinosaurs. I agree about Conductor and Lithos, Jim. They and Lost World just ruined dinosaurs for me. Shame because I used to like dinos and played them myself, also in the GX era. Building up to Black Tyranno, Ultimate Tyranno, or Superconductor Tyranno, getting them out was so much fun. That's fair enough, my friend. And now onto your questions. 1. Thoughts on Bone Tower Dock Deck, aka Mayakashi focusing on soul-absorbing Bone Tower to deck the opponent out. I actually faced this deck on Master Duel and I made the mistake of trying to do a Max C challenge against it at the same time. However, I got exceedingly lucky that my opponent ran out of cards in their extra deck before they could deck me out. And then on the next turn, because I had an absolute stacked hand, I just went full combo and annihilated all 8,000 of my opponent's life points. So yeah, that was really scary to face. Particularly when I was not anticipating it to be like the Mayakashi Bone Tower deck. So Max C was probably doing a huge mistake against that, but fortune worked out for me, so all good in the end. 2. Thoughts on Tri-Brigade. Tri-Brigade I think is a very interesting deck. I like how they've got lots of different options of going into through Tri-Brigade Revolt. Though frankly, having Charade done to you on your turn is not very fun, of just a non-targeting banish. Additionally, by just summoning back the 4 main Tri-Brigades, they just get huge advantage out of it. And then also Charade's other effect, if it goes to the grave, you just get to roast for a Winged Beast, so that's just a free DD Crow that they can use against you later. Which isn't exactly fun, but overall, I have nothing against the deck, it's certainly very interesting. I did also find it quite interesting that I saw a couple of variants that were like Gladiator Beast Tri-Brigade, which looked pretty interesting. But, overall, decent deck. Seems to have kind of shifted out of the format though. But, you know, it's had its time. Question 3. Thoughts on Dark Lord? The Dark Lord deck was quite annoying to deal with, but I still have some fond memories of one thing I did to a Dark World player at locals. So around the time that Dark World came out was the same time as the Dark Illusion, which naturally brought in Pot of Desires. And Dark Lords are pretty much all level 8, so they play things like Desires, Trade In, and because they're all Dark Attribute, at least I'm pretty sure most of them are Dark Attribute, there might be like 1 or 2 which are Light, but I'm not entirely sure. They also play Allure of Darkness. That's 3 really amazing draw cards. I thought to myself, what's a really good card that goes against draw cards? I thought, Mystic Ref Panel. I'm playing that. So I decided to try that out because so many people were playing Pot of Desires at the time, so I thought, you know what, let's try and steal some draws. And against the Dark World player, I think I was on Pendulum Magician at the time. So I did my average board and I opened actually 2 Mystical Ref Panel, which ideally wasn't great, but I knew because of the matchup. Hopefully that should be okay. So I set both of them on the back, passed the turn to the opponent, and then for their turn they went Pot of Desires, Banish 10. I'm like, that's nice draws you're getting. Ref Panel, can I has please? And so after I stopped the Desires, he's like, okay, Trade In, discard this level 8. Wow, you're being really generous to me. Ref Panel again, stole the draws. And then I just stole the game from there. Double Ref Panel against a Dark Lord player is so much fun. It wasn't very nice, but Ref Panel's such a difficult to use card, and I got to resolve it twice. So I can't argue with that. Yeah, overall that was kind of fun. I don't really understand what the Dark Lord strategy is other than lots of special summoning. But yeah. 4. Thoughts on Lunar Lights? Lunar Lights as a pure deck, I like the concept of what they do, of like the smaller fusions which basically let you attack twice but not destroying the monsters. So it's a really interesting way to work off trying to build damage onto your opponent. But then when it essentially just became a spammable engine of summoning monsters when they released them like Tiger, Kaleido Chick, it just got out of control, and then it's just like, ugh, this is another one of those spam engines. So that wasn't fun to deal with when that came out. But overall, if I ignore like the spamming parts of the engine, the deck overall I think is quite alright, but Leo Dancer is extremely difficult to have to deal with. 5. Thoughts on Yusenju? Ooh, Yusenju is one of those decks that's had so many interesting things done with it. Like when the deck first came out, I don't think people were doing too much with it because it didn't have a huge amount of what it could do. It was just essentially, I think the main thing of what people were doing was like spam the normal summons, then using the karmas to bounce your stuff, and then just smack directly, leaving themselves. Then they bounce back at the end phase, and then they were also comboing themselves with things like Drowning Mirror Force, because since it leaves themselves vulnerable to attacks, and also Card of Demise, because they can just choose their chain link and how it resolves. So they completely normal summon, so they don't care about their specials. They just go, do all these normal summons, main phase 2, Card of Demise, get 3 more, set them on the back row, end phase, discard my hand, then effects of each Yosenju, bounce them back. It's kind of annoying when people can choose their chain links like that, but hey, that's Yu-Gi-Oh! Question 6. Thoughts on PK Fire? I mean, I still don't completely understand why they chose to call it PK Fire. I get the PK from Phantom Knights and then Fire somewhat for Burning Abyss. I suppose it somewhat makes sense, and it's a nice throwback to the Nintendo reference. It was an interesting combination of a deck when people were playing it, because all the Burning Abyss were level 3s, Dante, milling stuff, still milling stuff nowadays. How did Dante never get hit on a ban list, I wonder? Oh. But anyway, back to the point. So, naturally just the two decks synergized really well with it, because when Burning Abyss gets sent to the graveyard, they get to do stuff. Phantom Knights can banish themselves from grave to do stuff, so it just had that really decent synergy, and neither of them locked you into an archetype, so it was really good. So it was pretty decent. Overall, pretty interesting deck. 7. Thoughts on Cosmo? Cosmo was quite an irritating deck back in the day. Everyone was playing it because it was just such a good, easy OTK deck, because they just go Tin Can, reveal 3, add one of them to hand, banish the Tin Can, summon, and then just keep attack, special summon. And Dark Destroyer, just being able to pop all of your stuff. Forerunner to give them life points, which was really annoying. Slip Rider taking out back row. It was just a really difficult deck to try and deal with. Though I have had some fun though frankly I didn't really mind it too much, because at the time naturally I was on Pendulum Magician, so I had some really easy interactions, compliments of the new support from the structure deck. So if I was playing against Cosmos and my opponent drops Forerunner against me, I just do the simple play, Synchro Summon into Crystal Wave, Synchro Summon into Clearing Synchro Dragon, then just pass my turn and wait for their standby phase. Standby phase, mandatory effect of Forerunner to gain 1,000 life points, Chain Clearwing because the level 5 or higher activated effect, kill it, gain its attack, which was great. And also, after the structure deck, naturally one of the best cards that came out in the structure deck to deal with Cosmo was Odd-Eye's Meteor Burst Dragon, who states your opponent cannot activate monster effects during the battle. So simply put, my plan for dealing with that was quite simple. Synchro into Meteor Burst, go to my battle phase, kill over the ships, they can't float, and then just smack. I think I remember one of the most fun interactions I did against my opponent was at 11. So my opponent had a Dark Destroyer, which naturally is 3k, so not a lot in the Odd Eyes deck can get around it. So I synchro summoned into I synchro summoned into Meteor Burst with another monster, with an additional monster on the field. I used the effective Meteor Burst to summon Dragon Pit from my scale, overlaid into Absolute. Went to my battle phase, declared an attack with my weak monster, effective Absolute, detached the Meteor Burst to negate my own attack, and then special summon back the Meteor Burst. Then I crashed my Absolute into the Dark Destroyer for 200, activated Absolute's effect to summon Odd Eye's Rebellion Dragon from my extra deck, crashed that into the Dark Destroyer, then used Rebellion's effect to scale itself. Because I had Meteor Burst back on the field, Dark Destroyer couldn't activate its effect to float, so that was just smack for 25. Smack for 25, and from there I just took control of the game, and it was so great. Meteor Burst was literally like the best card I had of dealing with Cosmos, and it was so amazing back in the day. And then at some point Cosmos just kind of disappeared. Not that I'm complaining, but still. Sorry. 8. Thoughts on Ancient Gear. Back in the day in the video games, Ancient Gear was such an irritating deck to deal with. Particularly with things like because in the video game, pretty much all the AI did was spam Ancient Gear Beast and Ancient Gear Golem. And just managed to smack over everything I did. It was such a powerhouse deck. It was so annoying. Then it kind of shifted out for a few years until the structure deck came in and gave them new and better support. Which just made the deck even more irritating. Wyvern being able to search anything is mad. And now, of course, they've got their fusion monsters as well, complements of the Arc 5 era. Like Hunting Hound to be able to go into things like Howitzer to burn you out, and then using Ancient Gear Reborn to just bring it back each turn to constantly do 1,000, which is mad. And then also Chaos Giant, 4,500 that can attack everything and does piercing, because that's fun. Yeah, Ancient Gear, once it got that support, just really wasn't fun to deal with. And then question 9, thoughts on Gem Knights? I haven't really had too much experience playing against Gem Knights. I did have a bit of a time when I was playing Gem Knights, but that's because of the Master Duel. But that was because of the Master Duel storyline that makes you have to use Gem Knights. But overall, the deck's quite interesting, very versatile. Just one of those you really have to think about what you're doing when you're doing it. So yeah, it was quite interesting to give that a go. They've got some really interesting fusion monsters, so pretty decent. Master Diamond's ability to just copy anything is pretty cool. Overall, I think it's a pretty interesting deck and very nice in the fusion strategy. And finally, question 10, thoughts on Goki. Goki as a pure deck is fine. Goki as that really horrible splashable engine when they comboed it with Nightmare was absolutely horrible. Nightmare format was not fun, and Goki was probably one of the biggest reasons why, because that was the easiest deck to combo with Nightmares in order to extra link your opponent out and just basically stop them from playing straight up. It was so not fun to deal with, and I was really upset that none of the Goki cards got directly hit on the ban list around that time. I mean, they eventually banned Nightmare, Goblin, and Mermaid. The Mermaid got banned later for a different reason because of what Orcus were doing. But overall, I really didn't like what people were doing with Goki. The fact that when they first came out, I think it was Nats. I rate that during the Nats format they brought in playing things using Ice Soul to summon Neospace and Aqua Dolphin. That I rated. That's pretty interesting and cool. I forgot that Aqua Dolphin's a warrior monster. And then the person won Nats because of Aqua Dolphin's effect, but honestly the deck was just so boring to have to go against, because it's just like, if you don't have the right interaction there, you're just going to lose to an extra link. And typically they had the resources to play through the hand traps anyway, so it really wasn't great. So yeah, really glad they took out Nightmare Goblin and essentially shut down that deck. That was phenomenal. And on that note, guys, that is all the questions I've got. So thank you very much, Dark84, for your questions. Really appreciate them. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Remember, I do these Q&As every Wednesday afternoon UK time. To get your questions in before then. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.